So I'm Aaron, this is Jason. I'm from Australia, but I actually was born in Singapore, and when I was a kid moved to Australia, and then now I'm in Taiwan. I have 4 kids, and ranging from year 2, 8 to 13, our oldest are in junior high here. Jason, you?
I'm Jason. I was born in Hong Kong, went to Australia when I was 4 years old. When I was 6 years old, I returned to Hong Kong and then returned to Australia again when I was 14. So now I'm married with one child. One child is 5 years old.
Okay. So Jason, okay, you and I, we're both involved in church planting.
Yep.
We're both in what Taiwanese people would consider countryside places. So you're in Puxin, I'm in Donggang, but they're quite different places. So let me ask you, how do you go about church planting, or what are your aims and goals and hopes for what you do here?
So we're in a township of 20 villages, so 34,000 people, and it feels like being in a university campus. You don't know everyone, of course, but in a township you always see some familiar faces. So that's how it feels to be in the county, and we want to see a church in each of these 20 villages in the township, and we are reaching families, and we want each family to have disciples. Could be one, could be more than one. So the reason we have this thinking, a church in every village and disciples in every family, reflects a few things that we're thinking. First, we don't want our ministry to center around one location, whether it's a church building or the missionaries' home. We want locals, committed Christians, when they're ready to open their house and to do ministry. It doesn't have to be in a church building. It also reflects our belief that ministry shouldn't happen and centered around just one person, the missionary. We want locals to feel empowered. As long as they are committed to God, they have true change in character, like as a leader should, and their gifts are being developed, then they should be empowered to do ministry, and they shouldn't always just rely on the missionary. So that's why we want to see a church in every village, so the location is not centralized, and disciples in every family. So yeah, the people doing ministry are spreaded.
So before you came, how many churches were there in Puxin?
So there's one established church, 60 years old. Registered members, I don't think it's more than 30. Actual attendees recently dropped to less than 20.
Okay, so for a population, how big is Puxin again?
35,000.
So for a population of 35,000, there was basically an established Christian community of about 20 people. Okay, yeah. So I'm in Donggang, and it's very different. So it's bigger. It's 50,000, but it's not like you say. It's not like you'd have that many mutual friends. It's much more commercial feeling, and so a lot of people run small shops, and there were already churches. So there was one main church in town with 200 people, and maybe 3 or 4 smaller churches with maybe 20, 30 people. So much more Christians. And so our approach is similar in that we're trying to start kind of churches in people's homes, so that everyone in Donggang feels like there's somewhere they could join, a Christian community they could be part of. And we also, because there are existing churches, all the people in our teams, we actually all attend local churches to build relationships, and hopefully to try to work together. So different field, different situation, we do things differently. Let me ask you, why wouldn't you, for example, try to establish a more centralized church in Puxin? So there's a small one, so why not start another one? But also think, oh, why can't all the people from the different villages come in and you try to start something bigger?
One reason is because to have only one centralized location is that it's just limited. And naturally, we have a Sunday morning worship service in our house. We do that. And we do have a strongest influence in terms of what happens there. The environment is more quiet. There's no people fighting before and after the meeting. And so in contrast, say on Tuesday nights when we meet in people's house, you can hear the neighbors fighting, for example. So it's a lot more chaotic. So naturally, there is still a stronger presence of ministry happening in, say, our house. But your question is, why do we not just do that centralized thing?
And try to grow that.
I think because I think the growth happening in the missionaries' house is more natural, whereas we want to be intentional to help locals and empower them to do things at their place. It requires a lot more hard work. But we're doing this early on. So the locals will early on know, oh, there's a lot of precedents, a lot of examples. They can see how things can be done differently, how things can be done even in the so-called less presentable houses. So this empowers them, and we are often sometimes away. That could be home assignments, that could be other reasons. Missionaries are a lot less stable than locals. So already, when we are away, the locals can know what to do in that place. So there's one time, even our place, the electricity suddenly was cut. So it was 9:20 in the Sunday morning. The gathering is about to begin in 20 minutes. So what do? Well, we just ask one person if he can open his house, and we all got our Bibles ready, we got our songs ready, and we all went to this person's Sanhe Yuan, this open court house that they own, that they live in, and we have the Sunday meeting there. So things happen, and we want people to know ministry really isn't just about the hardware, and it's not about the building, it's not about the utilities. Those can help.
There's flexibility if you have a simpler style of church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So Donggang, our reason for not trying to do a more centralized church is perhaps a bit simpler in that there already are bigger centralized style churches. And so what we're trying to do is more diversify the types of churches that exist, so that more people feel like they have somewhere they could go. Because some people do find bigger buildings perhaps intimidating. Some people like that, but I think what we're hoping for is diversity. And so that, our dream is that, I don't know, maybe in decades or generations, there would be a network of churches, and they all work together, and they're all a bit different, but they help different sorts of people come close to God. Now I want to ask you, how do people's lifestyles affect the way you do church in terms of, the times they go to work, or even their own family situations and issues? How does that change or make you think, oh, we need to do this way or that way?
Yeah. So I really need to understand how people work and how their schedules run. So let's say before coming to Puxin, we like to have people be on time. If a Sunday worship is at 10, please come at 10. Please don't be late for more than 15 minutes. But yeah, we have families who come and they are consistently late. I always thought it's just because of lack of commitment to being in church and lack of commitment to God. But one morning, this family says, hey, we always have this farm work that we need to do on Sunday morning. And can you help us? It's going to be starting at 5:30 in the morning. That's the usual starting time. So we said, okay, let's try that. So on Sunday morning, a few of the people from church helped this family in the farm work. And it's very time consuming. And there's a lot of soil and mud that gets in you. So even with all the extra people, we just happen to finish around 8 or 9 a.m., even with the double of people. And afterwards, we still need to clean up. So I'm thinking, because of how the people make a living, they really can't control the time. It's very important for them, but finishing on time is a big achievement. And then they need to clean themselves up. So, and then they woke up at 5 a.m. So, in fact, coming to church at 11 a.m. with a clean enough, and feeling prepared is a big commitment.
It's the end of the day for them.
It's end of the day for them. Yeah.
Yeah, so in Donggang, there is farming, there's fish farming, but there's a lot of small commerce, lots of shops, and they all open at different times. So we have friends who run a coffee shop, they open at 7, and they finish about 3, 4 in the afternoon. We have other friends, maybe they run a bike shop, he only opens at 10, 11 o'clock, but he opens until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then some of them, they work 7 days a week. Some of them might have a day off here and there. A lot of the restaurants, their day off is Monday or Tuesday. And so our difficulty or challenge really is that no one's free at the same time. So you have a certain group of people, they're free at a certain time, but this other people, they're not free. So especially if you're not a Christian or you're interested, I mean, you're not gonna give up your job just to attend a meeting, right? Because it's not like you're a committed Christian yet. So you don't even have that reason. And so if you're going to try to reach out to these people, then you got to adjust to them. So we find that what we tend to do is we have to just meet with lots of individuals or 1 or 2 people throughout the week at different times, at different places. And then there's a whole group of people we don't even really know yet involved in fishing industry. So some of the fishermen, they go out at midnight, they fish overnight, and they come back in the morning. And so then they sleep during the day. And so their work hours are like the opposite of everyone. And then to service them, there's breakfast shops that open, they get customers having breakfast at 10 o'clock at night. So there's a whole range of different sorts of people where if we only stuck to a particular time, it just wouldn't work. So yeah, that's a real challenge for us there. Okay, change of topics.
Sure.
So you moved countries twice as a child.
Yep.
I moved once, and then we both end up in Taiwan.
Yep.
How has moving as a kid affected, influenced the way you approach life here in cross-cultural ministry and also ministry? What are some things you think, oh yeah, I want to pay more attention to that, or I feel like because I've had this experience, this is something I need to work more on? Or
yeah, that question is quite big. It takes a lot of time to think. The one thing I can think of is I had to say goodbyes when I was little, and I think I was helped enough so I can say goodbyes and I can grieve and I think that helps me to just make friends in different places, but being able to say goodbye as well. That also can help me. I don't feel, perhaps I don't feel every friendship needs to maintain as it is forever. So what does it mean? I think, if I didn't have my experience, perhaps I would be overly attached to certain people, or in ministry when I want to train a person. Now I feel I can train a person, and at a certain point I can say, okay, I can let you go and let you do your work with me in the shadow. But that's one thing I can think of. And you?
I think in terms of life in general, I approach coming to Taiwan as a migration. So for me, I don't see it just as a temporary thing. So I feel like wherever you go, you got to be fully there. And so when we moved our family, that affects everything. Like we think, okay, we're moving here, and I don't think I'm here only for a few years. I think I'm here for my lifetime. And so it affects the way I think about language, it affects the way, say, our kids. So that's one of the reasons why we want them in local schooling, because I think more as, I've migrated here. And affects the way I think about life and how we do our shopping and all that. Actually, one interesting thing was when we first moved from Singapore to Australia, we kept thinking, where can we find good laksa or good satay or good, whatever Singaporean Malaysian dishes. And when we first moved, there weren't many in Sydney where we were. And so it was always hard to find. But in some ways, what that's taught me is that, like you said, there's a certain transience to things, so like food. And so I don't hold on to the foods that I love that much. Like there's a lot of Australian food I really like that you can't get here. I could probably make it, maybe like meat pies and stuff. But a lot of times I just think, why don't I just try find what is it that I like here? Really get into the culture here and find the things I like here and enjoy that. So I think that's one of the big ways it's affected me. How do you think it's affected you in the way you think about like your son, schooling, life, language, that kind of thing?
In a way, if I didn't live in a couple of countries, I would feel less content of where I am. So, for example, a person in Taiwan or a family in Taiwan, they want their kid to say have a lot of opportunities or aspire, be aspiring, and often they aspire to be in foreign countries, in America, and because of that, they have dreams about it. Some of them are quite maybe unrealistic. They just think, foreign countries are always better in many ways. And then because of that, they may push the children very hard in terms of English, because the schooling system here may not be adequate, they feel. I guess coming from Hong Kong and Australia and then Taiwan, it allows me to be content, saying, I've been to these different places and I can see there's good features and bad features in different places, and I haven't seen them all, but I feel very content where I am. And also, even with similar aspirations for my child, having been in other countries, I kind of I think I can equip my child. Even without the school here, I can help my child have the language equipped, watch Cantonese cartoon animation or an English animation. So, so in that sense, then I can be very content to have my child grow up in the local school, even though I know this current local school may have the lowest tier in the English training. So, doesn't sound entirely selfless. I still want my child to have adequate contribution, but I seem to have the resources for him. So that would make me feel more calm in appearance compared to a local family. And that it is a gift, and it's a gift that I can take, so I can stay in the current township.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing is I mean, education in Singapore was just in English, and so moving to Australia, but the accent was so different. When I first moved to Australia, I couldn't understand people. They're speaking English, but it wasn't the English I was used to. And then growing up, especially in Sydney, I had lots of friends who'd moved to Sydney from other countries in primary school, high school, and they did fine. And so I think just experiencing that has helped me think, oh, if for some reason we had to go back to Australia, I'm actually not at all worried about the language thing and homeschooling and all that, because other people have done it, and hey, okay, it may not work out as smoothly as if you prepared very well, but it's okay. But also, I mean, and being a Christian as well, it's not the most important. Another thing is, I think when I grew up as a kid, I remember not remembering people in Singapore. My relatives were in Malaysia, and I remember not really knowing my relatives or people that other adults might have expected me to know. And that felt really frustrating when adults thought, oh, I should know this, or my Chinese should be better, or that kind of thing. And so I think for me and my kids, if they don't remember, I'm like, well, they don't remember. So I don't put the expectation that they should remember this uncle or auntie or this person or that person. We just say, oh, if you remember, that's good. And if you don't, well, I don't know, we try to look for photos or something. Yeah. And the same with language. We don't sit there and expect them to, have a certain level of English or that. We speak it at home. So yeah, I think that has helped in that way. And hopefully also being a Christian, that helps us understand that kind of dual nature, that dual citizenship. And like you were saying, the transience of living in a country or being from a particular country. But as a Christian, there's a double layer of we are citizens of heaven. And that, I think, makes a huge, huge difference. And I think, like you say, it's a gift. It's a gift that our kids can experience that dual nature, and from a young age know that their identity is not rooted in where they live or their culture and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a big thing.